you are on the road, maybe you're making towns, maybe you waiting on a plane, maybe you waiting on a bus, maybe you need to just pop us in your ears and let us give you that work when it comes to this professional wrestling business. And that is exactly what we intend to do. And guys, we are back here at In Your House. And you guys already know them vibes. Anytime the big step, we going. Hype, how you doing, bro? Unmute you, bro. Voice, you in here?
I'm in here. I can hear you loud and clear, sir.
How is it going, bro?
It's going great. I'm here. I'm excited to be a part of another In Your House moment. And, we got a great guest today and got a great vibe going on. And I'm just ready to get into it.
Absolutely, man. So, of course, guys, we're here back in your house. And, man, it has been an interesting weekend here this past weekend where I'm at locally in the Indianapolis area. And it's been great. And we're definitely going to get into that. Um, while I was out doing my thing, of course, this past weekend we had WWE Fastlane, and I was out there with my son. It was his birthday this past Friday. And he's when he first heard that this show was coming, he was like, I already know what I want to do for my birthday. So we decided to get those tickets, and man, it was such a great vibe. And it was so much of a good vibe, not just because of the wrestling that I was watching, man, and getting a chance to go to a show, because I hadn't been to a show in like a WWE show in quite a couple of years. I knew I was gonna see some of the wrestling homies. You know what I'm saying? I was gonna see some of my homies that I've hit shows with, that I've worked shows with. And man, last year, back in March, Voice, I got a chance to do OVW over there in Louisville, Kentucky, and it was a great opportunity. But while I was there, I finally got a chance to catch up with the man who I had been following his work for quite a while. And then I got a chance to work with him actually on that show, and that was a great opportunity. And then it'd been months and months and months. He's out there doing his thing. I'm out there, but I've kind of reeled back a little bit and whatnot, just for reasons and whatnot. But I got a chance to see him here at this show, and it's my man Aaron Grider, OVW referee and producer and independent ref out here in these streets, here in these territories, getting it, tearing it up, man. How are you doing, bro? Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to be here, and it was great. It was great seeing you, and had a great show in Indianapolis, which was fantastic. Crowd was hot,
Yes.
um, and my it's been a crazy year for me. I got to do a lot of things that I never would have envisioned doing in professional wrestling, and so it's been a crazy year. But
Yes.
thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem, man. Thanks for coming on. We're definitely gonna dig into that, man. There's a lot of stuff like I wanna like chat with you about, man, because like I saw you like the couple times that I've got to see you, bro. Like first it was at that show at Fastlane, and you had came through, man. I was gonna try to come your way, but you came my way, and I appreciate that.
Yep.
So that was cool. I really appreciate you for that. We got a picture. Didn't get a chance to really chop it up like that. And then back last March when I got a chance to work with you, we was in work mode. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So it's like I couldn't sit there and kind of like chop it up with you. But like seeing your journey in professional wrestling and just like you're still to this day like pure fandom, like I know I can have like a conversation with you where it's like, man, this guy loves it, I love it, and we're just gonna talk about what we love about it. And And man, it's gonna be great because I want to dig into some things, man. Just because those opportunities, I haven't really got a chance to once again pick your brain, and this is what it's really all about, right? Like having these conversations to me, it's always stimulating, bro, and it's always a vibe. And I just love talking wrestling with other passionate wrestling fans and people that work in the business. And I'm just ready for this, man. Hype, is you ready, bro?
Yo, you know I'm ready, yo. I
My
was
man,
born ready. My name Hype.
my
Sorry
man.
for those technical difficulties at first, but what up, household? My name is Hypocrisy Jones. Let me welcome y'all in. Come on, kick your shoes off. Don't mind that smell. It's all good vibes around here, man. And I
Yes,
can't
sir.
wait to talk wrestling and the wrestlers. And oh my
Yes,
God, bro.
man. Yes, man.
Oh my God, bro. Yo,
So much, man.
so much good stuff, so much, maybe some tea.
Get
So
a little tea up
yeah,
in here.
just a little bit, yo. So I'm so stoked about this conversation,
Yes,
man.
sir, man. Yes, sir. So like for me personally, man, I'm gonna go down the line here. For you listeners out there, I just wanna be let you guys know up front, we're not gonna have hype this entire episode, and that's fine. He's gotta roll off and he's gotta,
I
this is
got
what we doing, bro.
responsibilities.
Got responsibilities and whatnot. Oh, he
Yes,
responsible. Oh, he
but
responsible.
we're in great hands, right? We're in
Yes.
absolutely great hands because the voice
Yes.
is holding us down. He is our video streaming producer today. He is taking
Yes.
over the reins, and this is what we need. This is all about that team building spirit, bro. This is
Yes,
what we
sir.
do. So
Yes,
love this,
sir.
love this. How you feeling, boys?
I'm feeling great. I mean, I got my best friends out there in the wrestling world, and then we got a new guy that Aaron. I'm really looking forward to digging into a little more of what you do because you kind of have the world I wish I had when it comes to professional wrestling.
I
So
He's just
love it,
being
bro.
real, right? He's
I,
just
I
being
yeah,
I
real.
I
love
just
it,
I
bro.
just want to come out and tell you exactly how I feel and where we're gonna go in this interview.
Man, awesome,
Oh man,
man.
I appreciate that, man. And with House, it's one of those things. Like I followed your work, and we keep in touch on social media, and so it's one of those things where it's like we have with the way social media is now. There's a lot of friends you have in the wrestling business that you don't actually meet.
Yeah.
That you
Yeah.
kind of you see them through shows or at shows or you've seen their work. You're like, man, I'd really like to talk to this guy. But then,
Yeah.
and as you kind of hinted at it with OVW when you're in OVW, when we get at shows, we're all in work mode.
Yeah.
We're like,
Yeah.
what are we doing? What's going on? And when I'm at OVW, I'm running around like a chick with my head cut off.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So yeah, it's one of those things where it's like we've never actually got to have like a full on like wrestling conversation.
Yeah.
So it's really when you asked me to do this, I was like, absolutely, let's
Thank
make
you,
this
bro.
happen.
That's awesome.
Thank you, bro. We really appreciate it, man. We really do. It's gonna be great. And for me personally, I just knowing everything that you've done, I always got to start like at the very beginning. Of course, we're gonna ask you as much. We're gonna dig in. But like my first question I want to ask you, man, is like, where did it all kind of start for you, man? As far as professional wrestling, from your interest being sparked by it to the time that you decided to enter the business.
So there's a long gap between when my interest began and when I actually got in the business.
Yeah.
So I'll kind of start recent and then work my way back. And the fact that most people don't realize that I've only been in the business for 5 years.
Wow.
And
Okay.
so people think like they talk to me and they see how my mind works and things like that. They're like, man, we feel like you've been in the business for forever.
Yeah.
And it's because I've followed the business forever. And but when I follow the business, I've followed it differently.
Yeah.
So I followed it as a fan, but I always paid attention to details. I always paid attention to the why things were happening. I became invested in the stories themselves and the characters. It's all about the stories and the characters.
Yes.
So I've been watching wrestling since I'm about 6 years old.
Yeah.
And my dad got me into it. and he was pretty much the reason why I watched wrestling. That was our connection. We were never like a super lovey-dovey family, but we could always talk about professional wrestling. He always ordered the pay-per-views. The first pay-per-view that I ever remember him ordering was Survivor Series 1989 from Chicago.
Okay.
And I actually fell asleep during that show because I was young. I was 6 years old at the time. And of course, it was back then, Survivor Series aired on Thanksgiving night.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so they aired on Thanksgiving night. And so I had dinner. I had a big full day as a 6-year-old kid. So I was
For sure, yeah, yeah.
I'm done. I'm done at this point. I had all my turkey, my stuffing. Give me a nap. But then as it grew, and I tell people all the time, some people grow out of wrestling. I never grew out of it. My fandom just got bigger and bigger and bigger. When I started going to college, I started traveling to other places to go watch shows. It's funny, I've been Indiana based my whole life, but I'd never been to a Chicago show until I was almost, I was almost 30. I was 29 years old when I went to my first show in Chicago.
Wow. Okay.
And I joke with people because I should have stopped at my first Chicago show because I don't know if that will ever be topped. So my first Chicago show was Money in the Bank 2011 with Punk versus Cena.
Oh, man.
Oh my God.
You can't get any bigger than that.
Right? It's like at that point, I probably should have just stopped going to Chicago shows.
That's the bar, bro.
Right? Like that's the bar. And like that's the up here. Like that's. And if there was ever a show where I was fearful there was going to be a riot, it was that show.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man.
Because everyone knows the famous "If Cena wins, we riot" sign. Yeah. I actually believe that legit would have happened. And it's funny because at the time, so I was married at the time, and my wife at the time, unfortunately, was a John Cena fan. I tried to warn her before we went to Chicago. I was like, honey, you can't do this. But she was in a John Cena hat. She had the shirt, the art, the whole thing. And we're sitting in the balcony area, but we're in the middle of the road. And the whole time I'm like, man, she gonna get thrown out of this balcony, and nobody in this crowd gonna see a thing. Nobody gonna see a thing.
Height, voice. He was over here. Aaron was over here looking like,
yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
I don't even know her. We have a stranger.
I do not know this woman. Who are you?
Yeah.
Yo, Aaron, just hearing your story, it reminds me very similar of myself and my grind in wrestling, and I got into wrestling a lot later in life. Not got into it. I was always it was always ingrained in the culture of my hypocrisyness, right? But because when I was little, I used to love watching WCW, WWE, all these things. But as I grew up, I noticed that I could actually get into this business and do some things into it, and everything that I've done thus far has been the most fulfilling thing. And I know I feel like I catch that everything that you're doing right now is the most fulfilling thing, and everything that you do after that is even more fulfilling than the last, right? So how does that feel for you right now? You take this time to gloat a little bit, and praise yourself.
Get your stuff in, bro. Get your shit in, bro.
It's still so surreal to me.
Yeah.
So I've got to do some crazy things, and we'll delve into some of that stuff here in a little bit. But it's crazy to me that if you had told 15, 20-year-old me, or even 12-year-old me, hey, you're going to be in the wrestling business, You're going to be helping produce OVW. You're going to have Al Snow sitting behind you. You're going to have Doug Basham over to your left. Like all these people, and you're going to get to interact with all these people. Uh, it's crazy. It's crazy. And, I didn't get in the business until 2018.
Wow.
So I was 35 years old. And it's one of those things where it's not time until it's time.
Right.
And so 2018, a lot of things happened. The first thing that happened was in March of 2018, my dad passed away. So when someone really close to you passes away, you really got to change your perspective, because he was older, but he wasn't like old. He was like 68, I think. But so he passes away. That September, I go out to see my best friend who I met in college. He had been in the wrestling business for a few years. He had gotten into it. So I went out to watch him wrestle for a company called Defy Wrestling, which some people will know and are familiar with. And I go out there. He does the show. We have a great time. I ride back to his house with him, and we're on the way back. And he asks me, "Hey man, you love professional wrestling. Why are you not in the business?" And my first reaction was, "Well, you've met me. I am the most unathletic human on planet Earth. I have no coordination whatsoever." He's like, "Well, you don't have to be a wrestler. Why don't you be a ref? Because if you're a really good ref, you'll always get booked." And I'm like, so then the wheels start turning, right? The wheels start turning. So I get home from vacation, I go home and I start Googling wrestling schools. And at the time I was living in New Albany, which is where I'm still at now. Just out for those that aren't aware, New Albany is just outside Louisville. It's about 25 minutes outside Louisville, Kentucky. So
Yeah.
it's right on the Kentucky-Indiana border.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, of course, the first school that comes up is OVW. So I hit them up. I sent them an email. Their first response is, "Well, everyone that goes to our school has to go through bump training, take all the wrestling bumps." And at the time, like I said, I'm 35. I'm like, I'm not in great physical condition.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I'm not sure my body can handle bump training. So then the second thing that came up was a school called Bone Crushers, which is in Cincinnati, Ohio,
Mm-hmm.
run by a guy by the name of Roger Ruffin, and who used to ref for WWE. He's trained some names that people know. He trained Wildcat Chris Harris. He trained uh,
Okay.
he trained Abyss. He
Ooh.
trained Jillian Hall, and he also, probably the most famous he trained was Carl Anderson. So he's trained guys like that. So he has a really good reputation. So I hit them up. It's like, and they basically told me, if you want to ref, we will teach you to ref. We don't need you to go through the bump training, because you'll do all the cardio training, but we'll teach you how to ref. So I went, I watched the training. I was immediately wide eyed, hooked, ready to go. Next week, I come back, and the rest is history. I start training in late September of 2018, refed my first match in January of 2019.
Right on, man.
Love it.
Right
Love it.
on, man. So that's the beginning. That's the start.
Yes.
That's the genesis of Aaron there, and that's I always like to hear that. I'm always interested in where everybody started at. I mean, just because the journey, it's everybody's journey is different,
Oh, yeah.
and I feel like that a lot of the times in the business, like there's a lot of people who think there's like some linear path to
Right.
success in the wrestling business, and there's not. It's all different. It's different for different people, like in what you can offer the business and what the business can offer you. Voice, did you have a question here from my man Aaron?
I actually did. I hear the way you talk about your love for the just being a fan of wrestling, and then like you said, once you became older in your 30s, you you actually dove into it. But with going off that, when you see the work that you and everybody involved in the OVW success, that the recent attention that you guys have gotten, how does that make you feel as Aaron, the guy that's just sitting here talking to us, not the guy who's
Right.
on camera, but just you personally? How's that really hit you?
I don't know if it has yet.
Oh,
Because
okay.
but well, it's one of those weird things. So, I had a very weird path to OVW, a very odd way of getting there. Literally, I in 2020, right after COVID, there was a collective in Indianapolis that October, and I worked that collective. During Effie's big game brunch, I refed a gauntlet match and I broke my hand.
Oh,
Oh no.
So I had just at that time OVW was running at the arena here in Jeffersonville,
Hmm.
and I had worked for them like two show. I'd done two shows for them, I think, before the collective. I broke my hand. They go over. They move back to Davis Arena, and I get there and I'm like, "Hey guys, I broke my hand. I can't ref, but I want to stick around. I don't want to just be gone for 4 to 6 months or whatever it's going to be." It ended up being about 4 months before I was fully healed. But I want to do something. So they're like, so the first week they had me be the bell ring at the ring. At the end of the show, Adam Revolver comes up to me. He's like, "Hey man, how about next week we bring you backstage and you can watch and help do times and time out the show?" I was like, "That'd be great." Which, in case anyone was wondering, learning how to time out the show in Adam Revolver's mind is I was literally backstage watching him for about a half hour. He then hands me the headset that he's wearing, puts it on my head, and is like, "This is yours now."
Oh, we're hitting the ground running.
And
Yes,
I'm just
go.
hitting the ground running.
that's awesome.
And as far as like what wrestlers is doing, we all knew that something was going to come out of it. We didn't
Yeah.
know what. Like you kind of know that there's going to be some good things coming out of it. Since that show has released, the Thursday that it released on Wednesday. That Thursday, our attendance was I think at 175, when
Mhm.
our average attendance was 90.
Wow.
For the last 3 weeks, we sold out.
Oh yeah.
We have already sold out for this Thursday.
Wow.
I believe we are close to a sellout for the October 21st SNS. And I believe tickets have already started selling for the Nightmare Rumble in January.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
So
It's wonderful.
the Netflix effect is real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yes.
It is very, very real.
Well,
And
I'm sorry. I was going to say there's no way that it couldn't be.
yeah,
Seeing you guys in polarizing positions, seeing you in your encounters with Freya, which I'm sure that we will talk
yeah,
about here in a
Yeah.
bit. But it's also seeing characters like Hollywood Haley J, uh, and seeing
Cash flow.
background characters, cash flow. But even seeing in our standpoint, I think the biggest thing in our group was, hey, did you see the guy in the background? Did you see Jack Vaughn back there? Did you
Yeah.
see Jared Kripke back there? Did
Yo.
you see
Yeah.
yeah, I Deshaun Kelly, shout out to Deshaun Kelly. Did you see those people back there too? And like we may be the exception because like we're just like, I know all these people and I love all this for them,
Yes, for
but
sure.
but that Netflix reality is real. You have people that probably didn't even know this was going on, in their backyard, right?
Yeah,
And they're like, I need to see this now. This is amazing.
it is.
it's crazy. And you mentioned people in the background. And the one background one that got me which people will some people will know him. Um, there's a referee, Sean Patrick O'Brien,
Yes.
referee man bun,
Yes.
who passed away this year.
Yeah.
He's it literally one of the first scenes of the entire show is him in the background. And a buddy of mine, a friend of mine, sent me a screenshot of that. I shared it to a group chat we had as because we were planning a birthday show for Sean, which was over the
Yeah.
weekend.
Yeah.
And everybody loved it. Like it's just it was a weird vibe though because there were some people. That's the first time actually seeing Sean alive again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like it's real, and you see like just his personality, and still to this day, like it's been 7 months, but it's still surreal and doesn't seem real. So to see him get that moment meant more to me than just about everything else. Like,
Yeah.
it
That's
really
awesome.
did, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm one of those guys that I am of course I'm very appreciative of my success and very happy for what I'm doing. But there is plenty of room at the table for everybody to eat and everybody to
Yeah.
get their flowers and everybody to get recognized. And one of the things House mentioned was there's no linear path. And
Yeah.
also, and I like to piggyback on that and say there is no defined measure of success in wrestling. The only
Yes.
person that can tell you that you're successful in wrestling is you, because
Yes.
not everybody has that end goal of WWE or AEW or Impact or wherever. There are different things to different people, and success
Yeah.
is different things to different people. So if you're listening to this and you've had anybody tell you, well, you're not successful, bullshit.
Yeah.
I mean, like, really, the only one that can tell you that you're successful is you. Go out there, do what you want to do, what makes you happy. We only get one run at this, folks.
Yep.
So
Yes.
make yourself happy. Do what you got to do. And as I've learned, especially over the past couple of years, where I've had two very close friends of mine pass away in their 30s, life is fragile, kids. Like, enjoy it, live it, and don't let other people determine your happiness.
Absolutely. No, absolutely, man. I mean, that I couldn't have said that better myself. Like it was for me personally, Spo, that was shocking because I got a chance to work a couple shows with them. I'd seen him at a Paradigm Pro,
That
and
loss
then
hit.
yeah, and then Bizarro Lucha over in Indianapolis. He worked some of those shows. I know he did AWR over in Indianapolis. So he was like he was hitting towns just like and like he touched everybody, man. Like anybody who got a chance to have a moment with him, he touched everybody's lives. So like to see all the love that he's getting, I'm like, man, it's so well deserved, so rightful. Like so to see him at the beginning, there at Wrestlers, that just makes to me personally like that series that much more special, and like it's just I don't know, everything that you guys got brewing over there at OVW, it just seems like a special blend and a very close knit together type group, and like you don't really see stuff like that really on the indies, and to from what I see working the indies locally and out and going to different places and whatnot. It's just an interesting thing to see. So Aaron, man, we're having a really great episode talking to you, man, and talking wrestling, talking your career, talking wrestlers on Netflix, and man, you've done so much. And like everybody knows that when they think OVW, they think those great names that came out of OVW. They think about the John Cena's, they think about the Batistas, the Randy Ortons, Elijah Burke, so many different names that have come through those, come through those walls, and now we're kind of seeing like that happen again. Shelton Benjamin, got to throw Shelty B in there. And now we're having that kind of resurgence where we're seeing names starting to come out. We got Hollywood Haley J, who's doing really great work. I gotta say Jada Stone, talking names like Freya the Slay, and we definitely gonna get to that.
Right.
There's a little elephant in the room with that. And so many different names. Jack Vaughn is now a staple, has become a staple there at OVW. Yes, I know. And it's crazy to see this crazy nucleus of talent come together and work under Al Snow and everything that you guys are doing. Before we get into more of the stuff that you're really digging into, my question is, like, you have a pretty solid relationship with Big Al Snow, man. Like, what is the dynamic between you two when you guys are together?
Oh man. So before I get to that, there are two names you mentioned I want to really put over with OVW.
Sure.
Because I've pretty much been with them since day one. Um,
Yeah.
Hollywood Haley J. Um, Number one, she's a star. I mean, she flat out is a star. And I have said this to her before, so it's nothing that I haven't said to her direct. Once her in ring work gets to where her personality is, the sky is the limit.
Yeah.
And she is improving constantly. She has gotten really good in the ring. She's going to continue to get better. I actually was there for her first match ever in professional wrestling, and Sean actually refed it. So I've been there with day one to see her grow and move up in this business. Jack Vaughn, I have seen him pretty much. He trained with Roger, so he trained at the same place that I trained at.
Yeah.
So when I started going around to Roger shows, I met him. He was another character at the time. During COVID, I really got to talk to him about the evolution of this Jack Vaughn character. Because it really started as a thing of he was just talking about being the last real professional wrestler. It literally just started with him wanting to ban the super kick.
I remember that.
That is literally how all this started. And he had showed me he had a little pamphlet of talking about things that needed to be banned in professional wrestling. And him and I would talk ideas and run stuff by. Like it's great to see where it started and where it is now.
Yes.
So I love Jack Vaughn. I want nothing but the best for that man. I hope he continues to get his flowers. If you have not followed Jack Vaughn on TikTok, what are you doing with your life?
Seriously.
Follow it right now.
Stop what you're doing. Pause this right now unless you're live. Just stop what you're doing right now and go follow him on everything.
Yes.
The last real professional wrestler, Jack Vaughn, bro.
Yeah, like it is there. I am not understating this. He is the best thing on social media.
Yes.
No,
Yeah.
you are
He
correct.
really is. He really is.
He is the epitome of what wrestlers on social media should be.
I couldn't say, yeah. His views on it, like it's just his views of professional wrestling done in these entertaining clips. Like it's just absolutely brilliant, honestly.
It really is, and I love it so much. Now to get back to the dynamic with me and Al,
Yeah.
there is unique is the best way to describe it. Because it's weird because at the end of the day, that's Al Snow. And now it's kind of gotten to a point where he's no longer Al Snow to me, he's just Al. But like you still have it in the back of your mind, like, man, this guy's done a lot in wrestling. And one of the funniest things that I wish would have made the show, but it didn't. The Netflix crew, we were in Al's office. And of course, every time I would go to OVW, we have a run sheet. We go over production, the show, what we're doing, all that stuff. It was literally, and I'm not exaggerating this, it was 15 minutes straight of Al and I going back and forth with your mom jokes. Legit 15 minutes straight. And we would be in the middle of a live wrestling show, and he'll just pop out a your mom joke out of nowhere, trying to distract me while I'm trying to run times on the show. And I'll look back behind me. I'm like, Al, do you mind? We're trying to run a live professional wrestling show right here. Do you mind? We're trying to get business done over here. Al is an absolute lunatic, but he is. He's a genius at times. He is very old school, and some of the old school ideas work, some of the old school ideas don't work, but that's part of wrestling.
Yeah.
Not everything works, and it's especially when you're live for 2 hours every week. Which, by the way, I was there when we got the news that we were going to be live for 2 hours every week, and I hated it. Al and I both were dreading it because
Yeah.
when
Oh
I
man.
started when I started doing production, we were only live for an hour, and then the second hour would be live to tape. So then they decided, well, we're going to go live for 2 hours on Fight TV, and I'm like, oh my god. So if you look,
It's a lot.
my gray hair, all of my gray hair has been accumulated since I have been at OVW. I swear to God.
It looks very nice though.
Yeah, thank you very. It's worse when I take the glasses off. Like you can really see. That is all thanks to Al Snow and OVW. I promise.
Distinguished. It's distinguished.
Yeah, it's very
Distinguished, yeah.
Sopranos.
Right. Thanks.
Ain't nothing wrong with a little wisdom. That's
Right,
all.
right,
you're
right.
That's all it is.
Man, it's interesting to hear your takes on the production of the show, because that's always something that's always interested me. I just got a chance to really get on the production side of things, working with D6, and I've worked production with a couple of different shows as far as editing and whatnot. Like mostly not anything really live, mostly post stuff is what I've been doing, and it's interesting, man, because I produced this podcast and I've produced some things before, but like just in the last year, I've got a chance to have that realization for myself. I'm like, wow, I like this is a responsibility that I have. People are putting their show in my hands and trusting me to put my touches on it. And as a producer, as somebody who has always aspired to be a producer, that is a different feeling right there to be able to be in that spot. So like for you, and then I'm gonna have Hype ask a question. For you being able to have such responsibility within the confines of OVW, what's that mean for you, and what's that like?
First off, it means a lot. Secondly, being a producer has turned me into a grumpy old man. And the reason this turned me into a grumpy old man is because I don't want to say that professional wrestlers have a lack of appreciation for producers or a lack of appreciation for sticking to their times. I just think they have a lack of understanding of how that affects the rest of the show.
That's a disorder nowadays. It is called time blindness.
Yeah.
It is just it's a thing.
Yeah, they don't be sticking to their times, bro. Trust me. I know. I'll be like,
Yeah.
many times I've been like, come on, y'all.
I was at a wrestling show. I reffed a show about a week and a half ago. The opener was supposed to go 8 minutes. It went 20. To say I was not happy is an understatement. And OVW has gotten better. As Al will tell you, everybody at OVW is a project. Everything is a project.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where there was a period of time where it was guaranteed everyone was going to go under their time or over their time. Nobody was going at their time.
Yeah.
So for me, what that means for my role is, for those that don't know, my role, and I've stepped away from OVW at the moment. Doesn't mean that I'm not going back. It just means I've taken a little bit of a break.
Yeah.
But what'll happen for me is my job was to literally time us in and out of commercial breaks and in and out of the time and the end of the show. So we got to go on the air at a certain time. We got to go off the air at a certain time. We got to go to break at a certain time, all these things. And so if a match goes 2 minutes over, I got to cut time. If a match goes 3 minutes under, I got to find a match that we're going to give extra time to and hope that they don't go under too, which happens a lot. Ooh. There have been times where we'll tell the main event, "Hey guys, you would have 3 extra minutes," and they go 2 minutes short, and literally the last 3 minutes of the show is just us at the commentary table showing the commentators talking, or just guys posing in the ring for 3 minutes straight. Like it's a very delicate balancing act, and
Yeah.
it's a lot of stress. And anyone who's ever been in production will tell you that it is probably as stressful, if not more stressful, than actually being in the ring. I tell people all the time, I sweat more in production than I do when I ref.
I believe that. Just
Because you,
just being on a small scale, just like producing these lives, producing live video content for cheap plug here, but the Pope's point of view, which you can find on YouTube and all audio streaming apps. But um, it's a lot, whether it's from editing to setting things up to making sure
Yeah.
frames are good, like every production aspect, which I'm so thankful that I've learned what I've learned so far, and I can't wait to learn more. But it is a lot sometimes, so I feel your pain there.
and it's one of those things where, especially in a business like wrestling, 99% of the things going on, I have zero control over.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Zero. I'm just literally just sitting back there and like, pray to God this works. Please work.
Right.
Please. God, I please hope that they pull this off, or that this comes off like they want it to, or that the crowd will react like they want it to,
Yeah.
and that we get the reactions that we want, which literally was my mindset every moment of the angle with Freya was, God, I hope this works. I hope people react to this. I hope people like this.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's a lot of pressure, and it's just a different mindset.
Yes, man. Yes. It's definitely hearing your perspective on it is just so interesting, just because like when this podcast was built, like it was built on us being fans. I mean that's we're going on our 5 years now and whatnot, and that it's always built on fandom. But like for me, I was always interested in that production aspect of it. So it's always interesting to have somebody that's in those positions to break that down and kind of get some knowledge. You know what I'm saying? Like not just the listeners out there over here listening on Apple Podcast or Spotify or wherever you guys get your podcasts at, but us too, and be able to take in that knowledge, apply that knowledge, because like we're still doing things too. But this podcast has been such an integral part of what we do. And once again, just having those wrestling conversations and be able to bounce ideas and thoughts off of each other is always interesting. Of course, I already know what I'm about to ask about next, but I guess I'll hold that off real quick. Voice, I'm gonna give you a chance before we get to the tea, bro.
Yeah, I just had one more question about OVW and its roster. Now coming from like an area you're coming from, Aaron, where I'm not in ring, I'm not doing all the amazing things, but I am part of a show. I am doing my own thing. Who on today's roster of OVW, who do you see surpassing your expectations of their performances? What you expected them to possibly do, and then how have you helped them surpass some of those things?
Man, that's a great question.
It really is good.
That is a really good, because I don't have a huge hand in like their development,
Mm-hmm.
but I get a chance to see them develop, and there are a couple people who have really elevated, and I know we're getting to her, and I'm going to put her over a lot more here in a minute, but Freya the Slayer has elevated her character so much, and she has changed so much since she's been at OVW and has grown so much. She is one. Another guy who I have known for a while, but I've really been happy to see him grow, is Star Rider.
Star Rider. I like Star Rider.
And I love me some Star Rider, and I have seen that man grow, and personally knowing him and being able to know how for the longest time all I would hear from that man is how much he wanted to turn heel. he was begging to turn heel for months and months and months. And then finally, they let him turn heel at OVW in arguably one of the best feuds that OVW has done in probably the past 2 or 3 years with him and Gustavo. They had an amazing feud that never was intended to go as long as it did, which there was another angle that was never intended to go as long as it did that we will be talking about here in a moment.
Oh,
Another tease for you. But yeah, that, and they got to do a scaffold match. And if you have not seen the scaffold match, go back and watch it. Gustavo Star Rider scaffold match OVW was fantastic, and I was so happy for him to get that moment, to be in the main event of an OVW pay per view, knowing how hard he had worked, how much that it meant to him, was really, really, really great. I'm saying too many nice things about him, so I'm going to stop now. But I do love me some Star Rider. So those two are really the main two. And I won't say they've surpassed expectations. I'm just thinking they were actually given the opportunity to show different sides of themselves, and they took the ball, so to speak, or they grabbed that brass ring, whatever you want to call it, and they ran with it.
That's awesome to hear. And plus, it has to feel really awesome on your side to see that, because to me, that's a surpassing of expectations when someone is able to grab that ring that's in front of them. Because, I mean, in today's, even in wrestling today, you don't see so many people just take that opportunity. There's very few, and when they do, they surprise so many people. I mean, look at Gable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man. Chad Gable is a prime example, as well as LA Knight.
Yeah.
Those two. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those for those that have not experienced it, and House can tell you this, and I've experienced it a couple of times now. The LA Knight pipe, the LA Knight pop is real, my friend.
It's real.
It is real, man. It is not piped in. It is not fake crowd noise.
no.
It is real. I have not heard a pop like that in WWE since probably Daniel Bryan in 2014.
That's so awesome.
It is amazing.
It's real. It really.
I love that. I didn't get a chance to feel what y'all felt at Fastlane this past Saturday, but a few months ago, I got the pleasure of going to a Fort Wayne house show.
Yeah.
And same experience for LA Knight. Everyone loved him, and this is at a time where they were really pushing the heel LA Knight, but nobody wanted it.
Nope.
And we made sure to let them know that nobody wanted that.
Yeah, and he's another example of, he just kept plugging along, man. And there used to be a time where WWE would fight against fans sometimes. Like for the longest time, Roman Reigns was being shoved down people's throats. They didn't want it. John Cena was being shoved down people's throats. They didn't want it. But the fans will tell you what they want. Now, sometimes you can give it to them and it makes sense.
Yeah.
Other times it doesn't make sense. So, they were never, it's not like you're going to change plans just to fit LA Knight in. But they have organically built him. They have organically built him. It has been a process. And that match at Fastlane did more for LA Knight than any match he has had in his entire career. John Cena made that man look like $1 million. John Cena did not have to go in there and get his ass kicked for 15 minutes. But he did it.
Yeah, he
sacrificed himself to get beat up and make the crowd want to see LA Knight. And as soon as LA Knight got in the ring, the crowd lost their minds. For anyone who's just in professional wrestling or in the business, that, my friends, is how you build to a hot tag.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that
That's
is.
I was thinking the exact same thing, Sin. I was like, oh my gosh, when's he gonna get to this man? Like, it was
Yes.
great.
But when
Uh,
he did, man, that place went nuts. And you
We
could
was
tell
up,
just
bro.
at watching at home.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
was
just
my,
up,
what?
my
bro.
my favorite thing of the whole match was when you've got Solo Sikoa on one side, Jimmy Uso on the other, LA Knight right in the middle, and he fires a punch, crowd goes, yeah, and then they fire a punch back and they go, boo, yeah, boo,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
boo, yeah. It was fantastic. And literally every move that the LA Knight hit, every single strike, every single move, punch, it was, yeah, yeah, every time, every single time. It was amazing.
It was, man. We're definitely going to talk more about Fastlane just because it was an amazing show and I got a lot of thoughts on it. But man, we gotta get to this tea part, man. We here now. Like the elephant in the room has been here, right
Yep.
here. Big, 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 big. I gotta talk about, man, one of my favorite love stories in professional wrestling. It didn't quite end the way that I thought it was gonna end, but man, but man, what a ride, man. What a ride. You and the story of Freya the Slayer and everything that went down with that, man. How you fumble Slayer, bro? How'd you fumble her, bro? What happened? I
Oh,
gotta say, it's like it following that was literally my favorite thing. I would anytime that I knew that you guys were shooting some content or something, I was all over it. I was in, bro. So like, what was that whole process like for you and that whole story and like what's the dynamic with you and Freya? Like, it's just so much to dig into with this.
there is a lot. Um, so number one, that was supposed to be a 1 month storyline.
Okay.
So
Wow.
yeah, that was supposed to be 1 month, and here is exactly what was supposed to happen. So if you've seen Wrestlers on Netflix, cheap plug for Wrestlers on Netflix,
Mm-hmm.
um,
If
that
you haven't
literally
watched it,
tells
what
the
are you
story.
doing?
That literally tells the story of how the angle began.
Yeah.
So at the end of Wrestlers, when they show the angle where I quote unquote get my retribution on Freya, that was the story. That was it. That was
Yeah.
supposed to be done. It was literally supposed to be we do the angle with the date night
Yeah.
where she's seducing me and talking me into, being favor to her. I help her win the women's title. Once she gets the women's title, then she starts kind of treating me like crap. Once she finds out that I'm not going to be reffing her match at the pay per view for the title, I overhear her talking bad about me,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then we build to the story. I help Layla Gray beat Freya for the title. Boom, done. That's how the story was pitched to me. It was 1 month. We're done. The problem with that was everybody latched on to the story. Everyone, fans latched onto it. Other people in the
Yeah.
business latched onto it. Al loved it. Like everybody loved it. And so I also kind of digged myself a hole unintentionally. So what happened was we did the date night angle where you see that wrestlers where we go on the date and I spit out the tequila, which was a shoot, by the way. Um, that was jalapeno tequila. Um, and it was
No.
legit. It was legit jalapeno tequila. I told Al before the shot, this is one take. I am not doing this more than once. You better get all the angles that you want. So
Yeah.
that was a legit Aaron Greider reaction to jalapeno tequila. So after the angle is over, we get done. We're in the bar, kind of talking a little bit, and we're kind of joking about it and how everything went great. And I joked with Al. I was like, well, Al, we could always do a wrestling wedding. And there's a pause.
Oh no.
And as soon as I see the pause on Al's face, I'm like, oh no. Oh no. The wheel, you can see the wheels turning. You can see it. And it's like, And that's what he says, which is in the wrestler's show, is we're not gonna stop after the 27th. And I'm like, crap. So what was supposed to be a 1 month story turns into a 1 year storyline.
Oh,
I don't think people realize that thing went for a year. It went from July of 2022 until August of 2023.
Man, what a
Like,
story.
like it went a year, and fans wanted more. They wanted all of it.
Yeah.
give me
And
what I want.
and here's the thing, I'm gonna pat all of us on the back with that for one specific reason. If you are a wrestler, watch that entire storyline. Follow that story. It was arguably the most over segment. That wedding segment was arguably the most over segment on that show. There were people specifically at that show for the wedding. Through that entire story, I took one bump.
Very nice.
That's it.
Wow.
The only bump that I took was the last
Through
bump
the
of the
table.
story. Was the
Yep.
choke slam through the wedding cake and the table. That is the only bump I took throughout that entire story. One bump.
That's crazy,
Yeah.
man. That story was so insane. So I went back and I watched it today. I'm on vacation this week, so I'm just kind of chilling, and I wanted to get ready for having you on the show because we was all excited to have you on. So I was just sitting over there, having a little coffee, chilling out with the kids, and I was like, let me go ahead and watch this angle. I want to see it from I want to put it fresh in my mind. So I watched it and I was like, oh man, like they really jammed my man Aaron up. Like, and we all know, like, wrestling weddings, right? They never go right. And and
Never.
for me, it was just the best. Like, because how many wrestling weddings do you really see, like, running on the indies like that? And like, I just thought it was the best. And then everybody's coming out, oh well, we've been together. We've been together for 3 years. Oh well, we got 3 kids together. And I'm like, as it's happening, I'm like, oh, Aaron be getting around Aaron. Aaron, no, Aaron. It was just the best, man. So like in that moment, like, was you feeling like the Mac Daddy? Was you like, oh yeah?
So there is a great video that was posted. So Stevie J, or Stephen Robert Johnson on Facebook, he's one of the commentators for OVW, and he was one of the groomsmen. And so he had a video filming as this was happening, and you hear Star Rider yelling in the background, "Aaron's got that dog in him! Aaron's got that dog in him!" And there's a couple funny things about that wedding. Um, Number one, I didn't know any of that was happening.
Oh no.
So my reactions to that were a shoot.
Yeah,
I knew that there were going to be shenanigans. I knew
yeah.
that there were going to be things of Aaron's been cheating or whatever. I did not know who was coming out. I did not know what they were saying. Um, all I knew was at the very end, I was going to try to grab Freya to get her back, and she was going to choke slam me. That's all I knew.
Yeah.
Um, I had several people after that segment tell me, number one, that's the greatest thing the OVW has done in a really long time. And number two, that there has never been anything like that at OVW.
Yeah.
And to have people tell me that meant a lot. And I've had people ask me. So at the start of the wedding, I'm walked down the aisle by my mother. For those wondering, yes, that is in fact my real mother. And it was her idea.
Wow.
Love it.
She messaged
That's
me
great.
about 3 or 4 days ahead of time, maybe about a week, and was like, wouldn't it be funny if I walked you down the aisle and gave you away? And I was like, that would be actually amazing. So I had to actually scramble to get her an event staff license, because in
Yeah.
Kentucky you have to have a license.
Right.
Yeah,
So
yep, for sure. Yep.
I literally got her an event staff license so she could walk me down the aisle and be at ringside.
That's
That's
so
awesome.
cool.
I love that.
What an
So to
amazing moment.
so to have all of those things happen with my mom at ringside, and the whole day, all I'm thinking about is my dad,
Yeah.
and realizing that, my God, he would love every second of this.
Yeah.
He would have loved every second, and it was just absolutely insane. I mean, it was a 3 segment wedding. It went 3 segments long, went about 30 minutes. We got a "This is awesome" chant in the first segment.
That's great.
Like, I mean, it was crazy. Like the reactions from the crowd, um, it was amazing.
I
It just
love
it's
that.
hard to put into words how much that meant.
Yeah.
Um, that's one of those things that's a bucket list. Like
Yeah.
growing up as a fan, like you see all these wrestling weddings, and now to say I was in a wrestling wedding at OVW in the Davis Arena with my mother at ringside. I don't know. I told people, I was like, and that's one of the reasons I've taken a hiatus from OVW. I was like, how do you top that?
Right.
I mean, what I mean, how can I actually top that moment? I don't know how I can. And it's just it's insane. Absolutely insane.
I
Yes,
love
man.
that.
What an awesome, cool moment there at OVW. One of my favorite stories that I followed as a fan for like that entire time, that last like yearish, and I'm like, man, this is great stuff. Freya was playing it well. You was playing it well. You were just great with all your reactions and everything, and like you just played it really well. So it was great, and once again, like it like you said, it's bucket list stuff, man. Yeah, so it's just really cool to hear all that, guys, out there in the household. We're about to be losing my man Hype, like we said earlier in the show. He's got to run. He's got to do some things. He will be
I got
back next
softball
week,
tonight.
ready to kick it again. Oh, that's right. You got that. You got to be doing some of those parental duties. Trust me, I know about it, bro.
Yeah.
but we'll let you go, bro. And just come on back. Next week we'll get it kicking again. And appreciate you, bro.
I got you, yo. Yo, peace household. Yo, I just want to say thank you so much to Aaron for jumping on with us and giving us this time. Really, really appreciate that. And yo, like really love your grind, and I love your attitude, and I love your positivity towards the professional wrestling business, man. I hope the best for you, and I love this time, bro. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, man. I appreciate that very much. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So we continue this episode here of In Your House. My man, we got the voiceover here, continuing with me over here, killing it. We got a great, great guest here with Aaron Grider. And we've talked so much already. We've talked about us meeting back again at Fastlane. We've talked about the wrestler. We've talked about OVW, wrestlers over there on Netflix. We talked so much about everything, and there's a lot of things going on in professional wrestling now, currently, that I wanna talk to you about, because not only are you somebody that's like in the mix, like I always like to get those perspectives from somebody that's in the mix, but also still like, hey, I still love this for what it is, as a fan, so like it's almost being on like both sides kind of. So we've talked about your career, we've talked about wrestlers, we've talked about that great storyline with you and Freya. Let's talk about this past weekend, Fastlane in Indianapolis. I know I got my
I want to do one thing really quick,
sure.
before we jump to that. I would be remiss if I didn't talk a little bit about how much Freya really contributed to that story.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and how much she was all in on that story with me. A lot of the things that you saw were ideas of hers or ideas of mine. A lot of it was very collaborative and very spontaneous. And she brought a lot to that story. And um, it really elevated her as a personality.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
she is now one of the most over females on the OVW roster.
She
And
is.
to see that is amazing. And to think, you know, maybe I had a little bit of hand in that, maybe I didn't. I don't. It's not. That's not up to me to say. But
Yeah.
what I can say is she was fantastic to work with. Um, I hope nothing but the best for her. We actually had, we had, brother, we had people thinking that wedding was real. Um, I, I, I had my mother um, had told me that my aunt reached out to her very upset that she did not get an invitation to my wedding. And
That's
my mom
funny.
had to explain to her that it was not an actual wedding. I had friends of mine mad at me. They're like, "Bro, we didn't know you even had a girlfriend." Um, and I'm like, guys, it's for wrestling. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's great. And what really set it off was, and this is where I give Frey a lot of credit. She set up a wedding website for us. So
Oh,
Oh,
there is a website called Tie the Knot, and she created a Tie the Knot page for us with an actual wedding registry and engagement photos and everything. Like we were all in on this.
that's the best.
Like I had people tell me that people had reached out to them. I had people reach out to me, people reach out to Freya, thinking this was real. And it is very, very hard in this day and age to get people to buy into a story to
Oh my
where they
gosh.
think something like that is real.
Yes.
Everybody's a skeptic. So to get that believability is probably the thing I'm most proud of
Yeah.
because we got them to buy in hook, line, and sinker. And that's just as much a credit to Freya as it is to anybody else. Freya doesn't look like everybody else. She doesn't act like everybody else. She doesn't wrestle like everybody else. She is just different. And I mean that in the best possible way. Because in wrestling, and I've heard guys like Eric Bischoff say this time and time again, you can either be less than, you can be better than, or you can be different than. And the best way to be is different than. And she is different. And I feel like it's only a matter of time.
Yeah.
Somebody is going to give her a deal somewhere. She is
Yeah.
going to be on a bigger national platform somewhere. And it is only a matter of time. And she just needed that personality to shine through. And I think that's where this story came through. And a lot of it was her idea. She pitched the initial idea. She talks about it on Wrestlers. She pitched the initial idea of seducing someone to Al. That initial story was her idea.
Yeah.
So she was able to mold that and show off her personality, and she's got nothing but upside. So I would have been remiss if I had not been able to mention how much she contributed to that story. I appreciate all the love that I get for it. I cherish it. I love it. Thank you, everyone who appreciates that story. But it absolutely takes two to tango. That story would not have been anywhere nearly as good if Freya had not bought into it as much as I did. So it was fantastic.
Yes, man. It's a cool situation, man. So cool. And I mean just like you said, so much put into it between the both of you. Like you said, it takes two to tango. Voice, you had a thought?
yeah. I was just gonna say, for people out there who hadn't seen this specific storyline that they're talking about, if you, when you do go back and you watch it, look at her face in the ring during the wedding when all of these women are coming out. Her acting in that is perfect. It is just so perfect, and it made me buy in because that was like when you sent that to me, House. That was the first time I seen that specific storyline, Like I heard about
Yeah.
it, but I never seen any bits and pieces of it. And then when I watched it, I was legit glued to her and her reaction. And then, well, Aaron, you going through the table at the end, it was kind of like, oh, oh goodness.
And that is the one thing. And there are things that change throughout that story.
Yeah.
The choke slam through the table is the one thing that Freya and I both were like, we are not changing this. We don't care how we get there. The choke slam through the table is the payoff.
Yeah.
That is the end of the story. That
Yeah.
is how we get there. We don't care how we're getting there. We can tweak and change and do things of that. Um, but we are the choke slam through the cake. That's the death nail. That is the end of this story. That's the moment.
Well,
That's what we're building to. Wrestling is all about building the moments. That's the moment we were building to for months, for a year. And as you said, Josh, her reactions, and you see it building through that segment, and you see her frustration. And the thing that really, with this story, that I think people really appreciated, you can relate.
yes.
People can relate to bad relationships. People can relate to a cheating spouse. People can relate to a bad wedding. People can relate to things going south and having your heart broken, or feeling like you're being manipulated, or feeling like you're being used, or feeling like the person you loved doesn't love you back. So it is one of those things where that's what makes wrestling great,
Yeah.
when you can tap into real life emotions of people. And this just hit a chord with people.
Oh, it
And
did.
to be able to say that I was involved in a story that struck a chord that people in wrestling were talking about. There is not a show that I did in that past year where at least one or two people did not come up to me and say, "Hey man, we saw what you did with Freya on OVW. That shit was hilarious. We
Yeah.
saw we saw what you're doing on OVW. Uh, that's great." So it was so surreal, and because I'm one of those guys that I try not to pat myself on the back too much. But with something like that, like, it's really hard to not be like, man, we really accomplished something.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
we really we did something special, and it's going to be really hard to top that for me personally. And there are a lot of reasons why. And there's a lot of cool things that I'm gonna get to do moving forward, I'm sure. But just the way that story was constructed, I had people that drove 4 hours just to come see that show, just to see my wedding. Um,
That's incredible.
it was
It
it
is.
was it was great, and it was so special, and just a memorable night. And people reaching out to me like, "Dude, that was the best thing I've seen on wrestling in wrestling in a long time." And they weren't talking about just OVW. They were talking like wrestling in general. And I'm like,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah.
All
I'm like, come
wrestling.
on.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on, guys. Let's not get too crazy. But like, it was one of those things where just people really gravitated to it. And
Yeah.
I was so happy for Freya. I was so happy for Al. I was so happy for me, because really it was the three of us that really helped put that together. Like, it was all three
Yeah.
of us collaborating. There weren't a lot of people, like with OVW production, you have a lot of hands in the cookie jar.
Yeah. Yeah.
But with that story, it was almost 100% Al, Freya, me. Pretty
Yeah.
much everybody else kind of steered clear. And they just let us do what we do, and
Yeah.
we went from there.
That's awesome, man. I mean, just to hear how that story broke down. I mean, watching it from the other side, just watching the segments, everything that you guys were doing on the OVW pages, and then leading up into doing everything that you guys ended up doing on OVW TV, like, and then what it turned into, and to hear you break it down like that, it's very cool. Like you said, I mean, that seems like a top point, to do something like that, do something so cool on that stage, man. So like it's awesome, man. It's great to hear all that and hear you break it down more than anything
Yeah.
else, man. You have a really like unique perspective on wrestling that I can vibe with because it's almost like seeing it from the outside looking in while being in there at the same time. Like you're like seeing it from this bird's eye view where it's like the puzzle pieces should go here, it should go there. This is what I think is going to make that work, and this is who I think would be good for that story, or this is who I think would be good with this, gimmick, and like to be able to break it down in that perspective, almost like a manager or producer type role, because it takes those types like to be able to help construct everything and help people meet the potential that they could possibly meet. And like it's just so many different parts that go into the business, and it's one of the reasons why I'm so glad to be a part of it, to be able to be close to that development, close to that growth of these talents that are just trying to get to that next level, and speaking of the next level, like I was saying, we just had a really great show this past weekend, Aaron. It was over there in Indianapolis, Gamebridge Fieldhouse, someplace that I've been to many shows in the past, Raw, SmackDowns, the 2008 SummerSlam, the Survivor Series we had, the Clash of Champions that we had, and now Fastlane. For me, this one was a different vibe, man. It was definitely something different. This was a sellout, bro, and
Yes.
you were there and you were feeling that energy. Hype, I know you did a watch along with it, or I'm sorry, a voice, you did a watch along with it, and you watched it, you was watching it live, so you have that perspective of seeing it on TV while we were there
Yeah.
live. So I kind of want to break it down a little bit. um Aaron, man, you were there for that show, you were feeling that energy. Like for you, being a part of that show, and then I'll ask you the same question, voice. What were some high points? Like, what do you think were like the highest points of that show as far as like crowd interaction and reaction? I know we talked a little bit about LA Knight, but was there anything else that you felt kind of was like top scale in that show that rose with that too?
There's a few things. Number one, it has been a long time since Indianapolis has sold out a WWE show, and
Yes.
and they sold it out clean. And what I mean by clean is like there was even people underneath hard camp,
Yep.
like the seats at hard camp. They don't usually sell those seats under
Yep.
hard camp, but there were people in those seats. There was not a seat to be found, um, and that crowd was hot, and they were
Yes.
ready. And um, there were a couple things. For me, I knew it was a big show because literally to the right of me in the front row, for wrestling fans will know when I say this, Brock Lesnar guy was in the
Yes.
front row to the right of me, literally just the right of me. To the right of him, unfortunately, I was a little too far away to get to him, but Tyrese Halliburton from the
Oh my
Indiana
gosh.
Pacers was in the front
Yes.
row. Now, after the show, he walked past my section towards the back, and I yelled out, "Go Pacers!" And he looks back at me, and he's like, "Yes, sir."
Nice.
So I had
Nice.
that moment with Tyrese Halliburton. I want to give Tyrese a shout out, and here's why. Because you see a lot of celebrities in towns will go to shows. They'll go, they'll sit front row, they'll be there for like one or two matches, and then they'll leave. Tyrese was there before the show started. He was there when the show ended, and that man was reacting like a fan would. You could
Beautiful.
tell that he loves professional wrestling.
Yeah.
You could tell that Tyrese loves professional wrestling. I'm already a Pacers fan, as you can tell by my glasses.
Yes, I
Go
love
go
them.
Pacers!
Go
Um,
Pacers.
but I could already tell that he's just a fan, and I'm an even bigger fan of Tyrese Halliburton than I was before because seeing that and his
Yeah.
natural reaction to things was great. He was even doing the two with it. He would stand up and show the two fingers to people behind him, saying that was
That's
only
great.
two. It was great. He was into it, man. Him and his
I love
dad
it.
both were into it. It was great. LA Knight definitely was the high point as far as crowd reaction. However, a close second, and I had a feeling, I was hoping Pat McAfee. Pat
Yeah.
McAfee got a hell of a reaction. He's been with WWE for like the past 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
He had not been at an Indianapolis show yet.
Oh, he had
Oh,
Natty.
He had not. When SmackDown was there, he was doing College Game Day, so he wasn't there. He has not. He had not been with WWE at an Indianapolis show. So to see him there was amazing. I was hoping he was going to be there, but I knew he had done College Game Day, so I didn't know if he was going to get there or not. When that music hit, that crowd erupted.
Yes.
Um, Now backstage, they probably hated him because he tried to get WrestleMania moving to Indianapolis. Um, so they probably were backstage, probably like, let's not. Come on, Pat. Let's not. Come on now. Come on now. Um, but we talked about this a little before we go there. I don't
Yeah.
think I don't think Indianapolis will get a WrestleMania. Now, that is not a knock on Indianapolis. The reason being is Nashville is getting a WrestleMania in 2027.
Hmm.
Minneapolis is rumored to be getting a WrestleMania within the next couple of years. So
Yeah.
that's two Midwest WrestleManias within the next handful of years.
Yeah.
They like to kind of move things around a little bit. So that doesn't mean Indy won't get a. I do think they will get a bigger show. I do think they will get a show at Lucas Oil Stadium at some point. I do think it's going to probably be a Royal Rumble or a SummerSlam.
Yes. Yeah.
Those would be my two picks. Um, so I think one of those shows probably will end up in Indianapolis because Lucas Oil is a beautiful stadium.
Hmm.
I really think Fastlane was a test,
Yeah.
because WWE is hot right now. So if WWE comes to your city and they can't sell out, there's a problem.
Yeah.
But they came to Indianapolis, they sold it out clean. I think Indy is going to get bigger shows in the future. Pat McAfee was a great reaction. LA Knight was a great reaction. I'm amazed at how over Jey Uso is.
Man.
Love seeing Jey Uso get that recognition. Love seeing Cody Rhodes get that recognition. Cody Rhodes in WWE just feels right.
Yeah.
It really
Yeah.
does. And that's not a knock on AEW. It's not. Seeing Cody in WWE just feels right. It feels like he's home. Um, that tag match was amazing.
I loved it.
The tag title match got the show off to a great start. I legit did not think they were winning the tag titles.
Same.
So when they won the titles, I'm like, okay, all bets are off. What I thought
yeah.
was going to happen tonight ain't freaking happening. Uh, so this, I mean, like it was a great moment. All the matches delivered. I thought everything was great. Seeing Carlito come back was awesome. Carlito looks amazing.
Yes.
Um, I have actually refed matches with Carlito. I've worked with Carlito. So seeing him get to go back to the big stage is really, really cool. He deserves it. I hope he has a great run in WWE. I really, really do. He deserves it. And then the triple threat women's match was great. I loved the finish with the moonsault from Io onto Charlotte as she was doing the figure eight. I thought it was
Yeah.
great. Last man standing was brutal, as it should have been. That finish happened literally 30 feet from where I was sitting,
That's
Oh,
so
cool.
that's so
right
cool.
over to the left of me. So it was great. It was a great night, and it was amazing.
Yes, man. I really enjoyed myself being there. Like it's like I said, I kind of said it on my social media earlier. I know Pat lobbied for WrestleMania in Indianapolis, but like I was just like, let's start off by getting an event that Indy's never had before, and let's get the Royal Rumble because Indianapolis has never had the Royal Rumble, and I think that for that, like with you saying, with you saying that WrestleMania isn't going to come to Indianapolis anytime soon, that's fair for me because of the logic behind it. But like for me, I think that it's time that we get an opportunity to have something like a Royal Rumble, something that we've never had before. And I just think that it'll be very, very special for Indianapolis to get that particular event. And I will 100% be there for sure.
Oh, for sure. And Indianapolis has really they've turned the image of the city around.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, they have.
ever since the Super Bowl in 2012, they've really turned that city around. Because for those of us that have grown up around Indianapolis, I grew up in Indianapolis. I'm
Hmm.
from Indianapolis originally.
Yeah.
I remember a time where you did not go downtown after dark.
Yeah.
You didn't do it. Like it was unsafe to go downtown. Massachusetts Avenue was unsafe. Um, but they completely redid Georgia Street, which is out in front of Cambridge. They
Hmm.
redid Mass Ave. Downtown Indianapolis is beautiful. And the city itself is centrally located. So if you do a bigger show like a SummerSlam or a Royal Rumble, then you've got a legit opportunity to get fans from pretty much everywhere. You
Yeah.
know, you're going to get fans from Chicago. You're going to get fans from Michigan, Minnesota,
Yep.
Ohio, Illinois, like Missouri, all these
Yep.
places. You're going to get all of them. You're going to in Detroit, like all these places. You're going to get fans coming from there to travel to Indianapolis. And Indianapolis has shown they can host bigger events like Gen Con, like a Super Bowl,
Yeah.
all these other events. They can host them and do well. And so I think it's a matter of time. Um, I think it's going to be a Rumble or a SummerSlam. I really do. I think that's whether it's going to be, next year, the year. Obviously, it's not going to be Rumble next year, but could it be SummerSlam next year? Maybe. Could it be Rumble in 25? Maybe.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of maybes. So could it be Rumble in 27 with Mania being in Nashville? Like that. There's a lot of maybes, but I think with the reaction, with the fact that I'm sure you know this as well, House, that was the largest grossing WWE show in Indianapolis history.
Yeah.
It outgrossed WrestleMania 8. It outgrossed SummerSlam 2008.
Yeah.
It outgrossed Clash of Champions. Like it outgrossed all the shows that Indianapolis has ever had. Survivor Series, all of that. It outgrossed them all. So
That's incredible.
I think there's very much a possibility that's the kind of thing that gets you noticed as a city.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm really hopeful that there will be more of that coming forward.
Absolutely. No, I'm with you. Like you said, shows like WrestleMania 8, we had that. And then I got a chance to be there for SummerSlam 2008. And we've had moments like
Yes.
Edge versus Undertaker at Hell in a Cell was one of them. We had John Cena versus Batista that night. CM Punk defending the World Heavyweight Championship against JBL that night. That was a great show. And then we had the debut of the Shield for Survivor Series, and then when we had Clash of Champions there back in 2016, we had Seth Rollins defending the Universal Champ. No, I'm sorry, it wasn't Seth. It was Kevin Owens defending. Yeah, he was defending against Seth. So yeah, that was. I mean, we've had like some history and some like events here. We had the we've had the rise of the Shield and the fall of the Shield here in Indianapolis. Like
Literally,
we
what people don't realize with the Shield, we had the debut of the Shield, we had the breakup of the Shield, and we had the reuniting of the Shield.
That's right.
All in Indianapolis. All three of those things happened in Indianapolis, and I was at all three of those shows.
Awesome.
So
That's really cool too.
Yeah. So it's Indianapolis has a great wrestling history. Another great moment that people may have forgotten about because it was a lifetime ago when Andre the Giant beat Hulk Hogan for the WWE Championship with the screwjob finish with the two referees.
Yeah.
That was at Market Square Arena in Indianapolis.
Wow, that wasn't it?
Yes. So there have also been some infamous moments. For example, the video that everybody's seen where Sid Vicious broke his leg.
Yeah.
That happened in Indianapolis. I was at that show, third row. at that show where Sid broke his leg, and it's one of the gnarliest things I've ever seen in my life. So that happened in Indianapolis. You've had all these different moments. So Indianapolis has had its moments.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, Fastlane was one of those things that was great. And there's a rich wrestling history in Indianapolis that a lot of people may not be aware of. You know,
Yeah.
wrestling in Indianapolis goes back a long way. There,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The USWA used to run in Indianapolis at the fairgrounds. You know, like the Coliseums at the fairgrounds, the Armory. You know, guys. Dick the Bruiser is from Indianapolis originally,
Yep. Yep.
so there are guys, and there's a rich history. And wrestling aficionados, people in wrestling, they understand that history. And wrestling fans in the Midwest in general are very passionate.
Yes.
And they're very just excited to see wrestling. Because there was a long period of time where Indianapolis did not get even a Raw or a SmackDown. They would just get house shows.
Yeah.
And they were seen as quote unquote a B town. So like during the Attitude Era, we didn't really get any Raws or SmackDowns. I remember in '98 we got a Sunday Night Heat, and then we also got in '99 we got a Sunday Night Heat, and then in '98 we got a Raw where we were with the Raw where Mick Foley and Cactus Jack got pushed. Excuse me, Mick Foley and Terry Funk got pushed off the stage in the dumpster. That was at
Yeah.
Market Square Arena in Indianapolis. And then where The Rock did the infamous Billy Gunn promo, where Billy Gunn was talking to God, that was at Sunday Night Heat in Indianapolis as well.
Wow.
So there have been some cool things that happen in Indianapolis. It's a very rich Indianapolis history.
Yes, no, I agree with that, man. It really feels like Fastlane was a nice turning point for Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Voice, you were watching, like I said, you were doing a watch along with it, and you were watching it live. How did the show feel on TV for you?
Well, the way it came across for me was Indianapolis has got their flag planted in whatever big pay-per-view that WWE is going to put there, and they're going to show out for it, and it's going to be a blast. And Indianapolis is going to get some great entertainment, and WWE is going to see that Indianapolis, we can show out for them, and we can give them what they
Yes.
want. And the way that every match was set up, because what threw me off at first was such a small card. I mean, it really threw off a lot of people. And but I said it in the watch along at the beginning when one of our fans, Terry, said something. I said, well, if they write out the stories and they give us a good enough story, it's going to fill that time, and we're going to
Yeah.
and that's what they did. I mean, the last man standing match, I mean, I was here on the standing up. I didn't sit down for that match from the start to the finish of that one. I was invested.
Yeah.
The triple threat match, I really thought it was such a chaotic ending, but it served a purpose, and it was kind of poetic. And now we can see Charlotte really have a more than just getting a title away from Io. We're gonna see Charlotte going after her and wanting to defeat her because she was defeated, she was pinned. You know, those things are gonna build more of a story, in which I thought a lot of people thought possibly Fastlane was kind of going to take away from stories, because I mean we started off with exactly what Aaron was surprised with, the tag titles changing. I mean, once that hit, I was like Aaron. I was like, oh, all bets are off. This
Exactly.
this live event is going to get crazy. And it really impressed, and it really it went above and beyond what I expected Fastlane to be, and I can't wait for another Fastlane. You know, and
literally, it's weird because you see there's 5 matches on the card, and you're like, man, that's a really, like you said, it's a really small card. they still went 3 hours.
Yeah.
Yes, they
And,
did.
and,
Yeah.
and they still went 3 hours, and they told great stories with everything. Um, and I love what you pointed out about Charlotte, because everybody gets very down on Charlotte. They
Yeah.
criticize Charlotte a lot.
Oh yeah.
I will argue to a lot to I'm blue in the face. I still think Charlotte Flair is the best women's professional wrestler in the world. I, I,
Consistency.
her consistency, she elevates everyone she is in the ring with.
Exactly.
And you can no longer argue that she's there because her last name is Flair. You
Oh,
can no longer argue that.
No.
You could have argued that in 2016. You could have argued that in 2017, maybe even 2018.
agreed.
You can no longer argue that now. It is
Mm-mm.
done. It is over. Ric Flair has even said, "I am no longer. She is no longer Ric Flair's daughter. I am Charlotte Flair's dad."
Yep.
And
That's great.
she's fantastic. And but putting her in chase mode is great. Now, I think I could be wrong. I think there's going to be a different path for her.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think she's going to go after Io. I think she may go after Io initially. I think there is a money match in the wings that we are going to get for Charlotte at possibly at WrestleMania. I think we're going to get Charlotte Flair versus Jade Cargill in the very near future.
Oh
And
yes.
I think that is money.
Yes.
And that is absolute Jade. Now I will say Jade is not ready today.
Yeah.
She is not ready yet. She is very green. She is very inexperienced. But she is going to get ready because she looks like $1,000,000. WWE is smart. They're not going to push her to the moon immediately. They are giving her the platform. They're treating her like a star. I don't think they're going to put her in the ring until they're confident in her ability to deliver a high quality WWE style match. I don't think we see Jade Cargill in the ring until Royal Rumble. I'm okay with that. We may see her on TV and she may make TV appearances, but I don't see her actually wrestling at least for a month or two. I would be very, very surprised because there's a lot of work to be done on her in ring. But there are some big time matchups that she can have in WWE.
Yeah.
Jade versus Charlotte is big time. Jade versus Rhea is big time. Even Jade versus Nia Jax is a match that could main event a Raw or a SmackDown because of just the dynamic.
Yeah.
Jade versus Becky. Jade, all these things. So she's in, just like Cody. I think Jade is in the right place. That is not a knock on OVW or on AEW. AEW is great about taking people who are established and using them to the best of their abilities. Where AEW struggles at sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes, is developing talent that's not ready. WWE has proven they can take talent that's not ready and develop it into talent that gets ready. If you need examples of that, just watch NXT. Because people don't realize this. Tiffany Stratton has been wrestling for less than 2 years. And
That's
look at what she has done.
He's incredible.
yeah.
Like, look what she has done. She just main evented a pay-per-view with Becky Lynch
Yep.
and had a match that was as good as, if not better than, Carmelo Hayes and Ilya Dragunov.
Fair.
So it's things like that. That again, AEW is great for people who are already established. Edge is going to do great in AEW. I love Edge. I love Edge in AEW. I think that's a great fit for him. Chris Jericho, Christian, people like that who have a name are great in AEW. If you're on the come up, I don't know if AEW is the best fit. It is for some people, it isn't for others. Who knows?
Yeah.
But but WWE, I think, has been waiting to get their hands on Jade Cargill. And Triple H even said it. Triple H even said in the press conference, we had wanted Jade before. When she became available again, we went after her and we're ready to get her. Speaking of the press conference, if you have not watched the Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso Fastlane press conference
So
portion,
good. So
you
good.
need to do that immediately
Yeet.
because, ladies and gentlemen, they were plastered. They were out
So
of their
good.
minds. Jey Uso could not keep a straight face. Cody Rhodes could not keep a straight face.
No.
Jey Uso was literally doing stuff just to break Cody, just
Yeah.
to make Cody laugh. Jey Uso was literally, for no reason whatsoever, he insisted on having both championships on his shoulders and was moving them up and off his shoulders the whole time.
He couldn't keep it
Like
on his.
he just kept moving them up and over his shoulders the whole time. It is a fantastic watch. I highly recommend it. It was Cody even said he's like Jay and I may have had some libations
Yes.
before we came
Yes.
here. They had more than a couple. I can guarantee you, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh yeah.
But it was fantastic. It is
Yes.
by far it's my favorite press conference I've ever seen. It was so good. The whole segment is about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
There was someone who had done a highlight package of it.
Yeah. Like chopped
And
it
so
up. Yeah.
chopped it up on YouTube and did a highlight package of it. Both ways are good. Um, Either way you want to watch it, but yeah, it is phenomenal. Go watch it.
Absolutely, man. I watched it this morning and I was like, "Oh my gosh." And like for me, this is a very interesting tag team, right? Like this is kind of what we're seeing, kind of like the whole Adam Cole and MJF dynamic with very different personalities that come together for a common goal. That's what we're seeing with Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes. And it's great for both of them because we're seeing more of that personality from Jey. We're seeing more of Cody's personality come out. We're gonna see a little bit more of a raw version of Cody. I feel like because Cody he's very clean cut. Like
Yes.
he's like a politician almost. Like he comes out and he's very clean cut and he's got his he's got his motivations and he lays it out for you and he does it. He's hit like vocally he's very pleasing to the ears. It's gonna be interesting to see him have to keep up with the goofiness that is
Yeah.
Jey Uso. It's gonna make for a very interesting tag team. I thought Fastlane was great. Um, it's always great seeing the Judgment Day do their thing. That was my first time to seeing the Judgment Day. The triple threat match. I even told my son, I was like, "Hey, watch, this one's about to be a banger."
Yep.
And he was like, "I already know." So he already knew.
Yeah.
And he really enjoyed the main event. His favorite wrestler is Seth Rollins, but like the one thing I'm proud of with him, my son, is that like he's kind of hip to the wrestling game now. So like he's like, "Dad, like I love Seth Rollins, but I honestly wouldn't be mad if Shinsuke won. Like I like Shinsuke," and I'm
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, he's doing great work. Like this whole anime villain character is great." So like he's hip to it. I just really enjoyed the show from front to back for what we got. It was great to see John Cena and what could possibly be one of the last times we see John Cena wrestle in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
For me, that night was just really, really special and on another level, man. And it was great to be able to see you and catch up with you and see such a great show that I feel honestly was a turning point for Indianapolis and what's going to happen with the relationship between Indianapolis and WWE.
I think so too, and it really it makes WWE take notice.
Yeah,
And Triple H commented on the press conference, and he made mention of the fact that largest grossing show in Indianapolis history. The city was wonderful. Like he said all the right things. He talked about what Pat McAfee said. Um, he's like everybody wants a WrestleMania. He joked about that. But Indy positioned itself really, really well, I think, and they made a good representation of themselves. And how great is the work that Shinsuke Nakamura is doing? Whoever
fantastic.
whoever
Yes.
came up with the idea, and this is not a knock on Nakamura, whoever came up with the idea of doing those pre-taped promos with the subtitles is an absolute genius. They made Nakamura look like a Bond villain,
Yeah.
and like he looked like a James Bond villain, and it's great. And another thing is, I think people need to understand with wrestling, you can get better by losing. You can go into a story and be better coming out of it by losing. A great
Yep.
storyline is when both guys come out of it being better. Both Seth and Shinsuke are out of this looking better. Shinsuke is not going anywhere, guys. He's not going to get shoved back to the mid card. He's still going to be a fixture. So it's one of those things where they're not going to forget about him. He is doing great work.
I hope
Yes, he
not.
is.
He is doing great, and I know
He's
people are
so
worried that
good.
yeah, I know people are worried because last time he got pushed to the world title, he lost. They moved him away from it. He went back to the mid card. I don't think that's going to happen this time. This is a different dynamic. This is a different Shinsuke. I think, and then with Cody and Jay, this is going to do a really good job of giving Cody something to do until he gets back to Roman.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because
Agreed.
we all see it, right? We all are thinking it's got to be Cody and Roman in Philadelphia next year at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
where Roman. That's where Roman's losing. Like it's like we feel like I think we all feel like that's the moment. Everybody thought the moment was last year. It wasn't. That was too easy. Last year was too easy. It was way. Fans, honestly, I think would have turned on Cody. I
That
really do.
makes sense.
They would have been happy for him for like a month or two, but then they would have been like, man, they're really shoving this guy down our throats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But now you're building to it. He hasn't even sniffed a world title since that.
Nope.
He hasn't even been in the main event picture. He's worked he worked Brock Lesnar, he worked Dominic Mysterio, like he's worked guys like that. He hasn't been in the title picture at all.
At
And now
all.
and now he's a tag team champion. Um, I don't think he's going to win the Rumble. I know most people think that's going to be the easy fix. I don't think he's winning the Rumble. Um, I think that he's probably going to win the Elimination Chamber. And that's probably going to be. I think there's got to be a little more of a climb. I don't think he wins the
Yeah.
Rumble. That's too easy.
Yeah.
Um, I have two early picks for the Rumble. I think it's either going to be Gunther or it's going to be LA Knight. I think those are your two like favorites.
Gunther
Um,
is a name I've said in the past on this show that I think he could win it.
I think he can too. I have now. It's not going to happen, but I said a year ago that Gunther should be the man to beat Roman Reigns. I am a huge Gunther fan.
Oh, I
I
love his
think
work.
I think Gunther is
He does
fantastic.
great work.
He makes you not, and I mean this in the best way possible. He makes you not want to be a wrestler
That's true.
because as hard as he hits and as violent as his matches are, he makes you believe that, man, I would never want to get hit by him ever. He had a great match with Ciampa last week on Raw. He's
Yeah.
had great
Yeah.
matches with Gable, um, which I still think Chad Gable is going to be the man to beat Gunther.
I
I,
want to
I,
see it.
I think they're going to get back to it. I really do. I think they're going to get back to it. I loved Chad Gable's daughter being the new version of Ms. Girl. I loved it.
Yes.
Her crying in the front row was fantastic.
Just
It
added to
was
the
it
story.
it just
Yeah.
added to the story and it added to the heartbreak. Seeing DIY back together, that's been rumored for months.
Yeah.
Seeing them back together, I'm interested to see how they're inserted in the tag division. Um, Give me DIY versus Sammy and Kevin. Give me
Ooh.
DIY versus Cody and Jay. Like,
Yeah.
give me like these matches are in a lot of ways dream matches.
Oh yeah.
So The WWE roster is stacked.
You ain't
I
kidding.
mean, they had 5 matches on a pay per view. Nobody watched that pay per view and felt like they got cheated.
No.
Think about it. There was no Brock Lesnar. There was no Roman Reigns. There was no Becky Lynch. Like there was none of these bigger, like what people consider big time draws.
Yeah.
They weren't on the show, and they didn't need to be on the show. So that speaks for the depth. And then you watch NXT and you see all the talent in NXT, and you're like, my God. Like you've got guys in NXT who could be on the main roster right now,
That's
but they don't. There's not a spot for them. You know, you've got guys like Carmelo Hayes, Roxanne Perez, Tiffany Stratton, people like Ilya Dragunov, people like that could be on the main Braun Breaker, guys like that could be on the main roster, but there's not a spot for them right now. It's just so stacked, and it really is a new boom period for the WWE.
Uh,
Like Triple H even talked about at the press conference. He's like, it's either Triple H or maybe even Cody. One of them said, you know, we're not sure what this era is going to be called, you know, 10, 15 years from now, you know, but you had the Attitude Era, you had the Ruthless Aggression Era. Like
yep.
people are going to look at this era right now as something special. Because pretty much everywhere WWE goes now, they sell out and they do record numbers. And it is a great time to be a wrestling fan.
it so is.
Yeah, it really is. It really is, man. I'm enjoying it. I'm loving it. This has been a great talk, man. Been a great conversation. We talked about so many things. Fortunately, I got to ride off into the sunset here. Before I do, Voice, I know you probably got one more question that you want to shoot off. I'm gonna give you an opportunity to ask a question, maybe kick a, gain a little knowledge from my man here. What you got for us before we ride out of here?
Okay, so I just had one. It's not a silly question, but it involves wrestling. So, if you were a part of a main event match, and now it can be any part of that main event match. You could be the ref, you could be an opponent, you could be a part of a tag team, what have it. What role and who would you want to fill the other spots in that match? What would be your dream match of that?
So there's a couple of answers to that. The first answer is I would probably love to ref a WWE match at some point. Um, you know, honestly, if I could take 2 guys on the current roster, you know, give me Seth Rollins and Gunther.
Oh,
Ooh,
And let me ref that match.
ooh,
Now,
fire.
now the second part of that answer, I'm getting to kind of ref a dream match this week.
oh,
I have a friend of mine who's on the Indies. Indie wrestling fans will know. His name is Gary J.
Gary
And
J. Yes, I
he
know.
he is St. Louis based. He has had a dream match for a long time. This Thursday in St. Louis at St. Louis Anarchy, which by the way is one of my favorite places to ref.
I hear great things about it.
It's a fantastic place, great crowd, great people. I get to ref Gary's dream match. So Thursday, I can't believe I'm about to say this sentence out loud. I'm going to be reffing Gary J versus Masato Tanaka.
Whoa.
what?
Yes. And for those wondering, yes, it is that Masato Tanaka from ECW.
That was going to be my next question.
It
Yeah.
is that Masato Tanaka. I am refing that match on Thursday.
That is
Oh my
awesome.
God, that's
That
so
is awesome.
cool.
That's so crazy, bro.
I
I love
just,
wrestling, man.
dude, I love it. I love it. When that match was first announced, because I've known Gary for about 5 years at this point.
Yeah,
Um, so I I've known that was his dream match.
yeah.
So he sends me that flyer, and I'm like, "Are you shitting me? Like, are you? This is actually happening?" So my first response is, because I'm a selfish bastard, I was like, my first response is, "Please let me ref that." And Gary had a one word response, and his response was, "Duh." Because I've become the unofficial Gary J ref at Anarchy. I
Yeah,
ref
Oh,
all of I pretty much ref all of Gary's matches. If I'm on a show with Gary J, there's a 99% chance I'm refing his match.
yeah.
So there was never a doubt I was going to ref that match. So I get to be in the ring for Gary J and Masato Tanaka on Thursday.
that
I
is
to say
so
I'm
incredible.
to say
It
I'm
really is.
excited is beyond. Like, it's just, if there was anything that could come close to topping the wedding at OVW, this is it. Like, this
Man,
moment. And I've told people, I was like, if I never, after Thursday, if I never ref another match, if I'm never on another wrestling show, I have done so much in wrestling in the 5 years that I could be happy with what I've done.
yeah,
Like,
Man,
I've worked with so many cool people. I refed Tyler Breeze's first match back to wrestling.
wow.
So, it's insane. I never thought I would get to ref a Masato Tanaka match. I it's it still doesn't seem real.
Man, you are really out here, bro, and I really love like your journey. It's always been so cool and unique for me. And then I've got it once again, like I said, I've got a chance to run into you at OVW, and then got a chance to run into you this past weekend. And for me, it was like, all right, man, I'm like we've kind of like talked a little bit here and there, but it's time for me to get this conversation done, man, because I've always wanted to pick your brain and see your like look and view of professional wrestling, and now we did. And I really hope that it's not the last time, man, because
Absolutely.
I really enjoyed this. I had a blast, man. We have a common courtesy here at the show, man, is that when we're at the end of the show, we always give our guests an opportunity to plug anything that they have coming up, any shows, any appearances, anything that you're doing, anything, wrestling or otherwise. It's always love from us as far as giving you that opportunity. So I want to give you that opportunity, Aaron, our great guest, to plug anything that you want to plug, anything that you got coming up, bro.
Yeah, I've got some, I've got some really cool stuff coming up. I've got Gary J and Masato Tanaka coming up at Anarchy on Thursday. Can't
Yeah.
wait for that. I've got Emerge Wrestling coming up this coming Saturday. That's going to be
Oh,
fun.
merge.
Yeah, yeah, I know you're familiar with Emerge, so
Yes.
yeah, I get to work with those guys on Saturday. Looking forward to that. And then coming up a week from Sunday, I'll be working for a promotion down in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky, which I work for quite often, called New South Wrestling.
Yes.
Um, they have a guy coming in. You may have heard of him. He's kind of famous a little bit. There's a guy by the name of Booker T, that I'm going to get
yeah,
to work with at New South. So that's going to be pretty awesome. I'm going to be working with Booker T coming up the end of the month. So literally within a week, I get to work with Masato Tanaka and Booker T.
wow.
Crazy. So crazy, man. Like I said, man, it was great to finally pick your brain, bro, and have this wrestling conversation, because like at the end of the day, I just know like Saturday before the show, I was like so excited, man. I was like, not only am I gonna go catch a great show, but I'm gonna get to see some homies that I haven't got to see in a long time. And like it's great because it's not just, of course, it's what happens in the ring bell to bell when you're sitting on a show, but like the camaraderie that
Yes.
that you start to accumulate over the years, over time, the amazing eclectic people that you get to meet and work with, and like it's just great, and I love it, man. So like I'm glad me and you cross paths, and we can grow that, and you've been around the business for about the same time as me, a little bit longer, but like it's just great, man, to be able to see somebody that thinks that way about wrestling, and I can have that conversation with. So once again, man, thanks for your time. I know we kind of coordinated this a little bit last minute, and you were just great about everything, man. So I want to thank you for coming on the show and giving those great stories, great insights, and just having a wrestling conversation with us, bro.
Thank you so much, guys. I really, really appreciate it. And like you said, wrestling is really about that camaraderie. When you're at a wrestling show, you're all there for the same reason. You all
Yep.
have a common interest. Like you're there. There is so much hatred on social media when it comes to wrestling. Social media can be very, very toxic.
Yeah.
And wrestling fans sometimes they feel like they've got to pick a side. If you like AEW, you can't like WWE, or if you like WWE, you can't like AEW. Let's just appreciate wrestling, and we
Yeah.
all love wrestling. We all love different forms of wrestling. Some people like death matches. Some people like the storytelling. Some people like the high flying. Some people like it all. Like it's one of those things. Like everybody likes wrestling. So it's cool to be able, and like when I go to shows, and when you go to like WrestleMania and you're there for a week and you get to meet all kinds of fans who are there for the same reason that you are. It's great to share those common experiences with people. And that's the thing about wrestling. It brings people together.
Yes, absolutely, man. And that brought us together today. And once again, it was just great having you on. Voice, is there anything that you want to plug before you slide on out of here and ride on to the sunset? It's been a great episode for the
It
household, bro.
it has. I just honestly, I just want to say, get out there, see everything that my new friend Aaron is out there doing for OVW. I couldn't be happier with this episode. I mean, to just sit and talk to a mind like you and
Yes.
Aaron, to hear the way you think about wrestling. I am looking so forward to sitting down and looking through a catalog of what you guys have there and what you've created yourself. So thank you so much for your time, man.
I appreciate it, guys, and it's crazy. It's just crazy to have people want to talk to me. Is still a little something I'm getting used to, but it's great, man. I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to be here. I love talking wrestling,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I love talking wrestling with people who love wrestling, and that's what it is. It's about talking about our love for wrestling. I also would be remiss if I did not give a shout out to House for that hoodie that he is currently wearing. That
Yeah.
Super Nintendo hoodie is phenomenal, my friend.
Thank
Big
you.
shout, big shout out on that.
Thank
Um,
you. Thank
big
you.
shout out on that.
Man, once again, great episode. Thank you once again to our guest, Aaron Grider, man. We truly appreciate you coming on. Hopefully, it's not the last time. But, guys, we have got to ride off into the sunset. You guys out there in the household who enjoyed this great episode on Twitch, enjoyed it on YouTube. Of course, later we'll have the podcast edition for you guys for Apple Podcasts and, of course, Spotify. We really appreciate all your guys' patronage, everything that you guys have done for this great podcast over this last almost 5 years. And of course, we're going to come back and give you some more of that work. Now, I can definitely say that you guys are going to be getting a little extra content this week. I have a couple of other great guests in the works. I'm on vacation this week, taking a little time off. So I want to put in some more work into this great podcast. Also, this coming weekend, I will be heading over to Kokomo, Indiana to talk so many things, talk a lot of things about professional wrestling, about my album that I just dropped a few months ago, Destination Six's show on the 21st that's going to be coming up in Macomb, Illinois. I'll be talking about that on the Kokomo Press podcast. I'll be over there with my man Jordan, my man Hype. I've been on that show before. It's going to be great. Looking forward to sitting down and talking some wrestling and music and everything else on that great podcast. But guys, until then, follow this great podcast. And of course, you can follow me at The Hollywood House on IG, Hollywood House across all those other social media platforms, including X and Facebook. And then, of course, you can follow this great podcast specifically that's in your house across all those social media platforms. And of course, guys, that's in your house. And that's HOWSE. And the W stands for work. So you guys already know them vibes. We're going to slide on out of here. But guys, until we meet again, I need you guys to hop on this bandwagon. Get on or get gone, because the household is still going mighty strong. You guys have a great day and a great rest of your week. Peace.